You're out at sunrise with your coffee, and there they are again. Holes chewed through the cabbage, aphids crowding the underside of every tomato leaf, slug trails glistening across the porch step like something out of a horror movie. You've sprayed 3 times this month already, and the bugs are back within a week. Here's the part that surprises most people the first time they hear it. A strip of plain copper, pushed into the soil, is one of the oldest, cheapest pest deterrents in gardening history. And it costs less than a single bottle of the stuff you've been buying every spring. Every gardener knows the drill by now. Neem oil wears off in the rain. Diatomaceous earth turns to useless paste the moment it gets wet. Pesticide sprays work for a week, then the surviving bugs breed the next generation a little more resistant, and you're back at the store buying something stronger. It's a treadmill, and it runs slightly uphill every single season, because that's how selection pressure works. The insects that survive your spray are the ones whose offspring won't be bothered by it next time. Meanwhile, there's a technique that costs about $18 and doesn't degrade, doesn't wash off, and doesn't need the insects to fail to adapt to it because there's no chemical for them to adapt to at all. I first saw this used properly on a small family farm in a plain dressing rural community in Pennsylvania, the kind of place that still grows food the way it was done before agriculture became an industry with a marketing budget. The farmer I spoke with had copper strips buried around his potato bed that had been in the ground, by his estimate, for close to 2 decades. Not a single Colorado potato beetle in sight, on a crop that's famous for getting stripped to bare stems in under 48 hours when left unprotected. He hadn't sprayed anything. He just pointed at a thin band of tarnished metal poking an inch out of the dirt and said that was the whole trick. Copper as a slug and snail deterrent isn't folklore invented on that farm. It goes back much further, and it's the one piece of this that modern science actually backs with reasonably solid evidence. Slugs and snails move across a copper surface by way of their mucus, and copper reacts with that mucus to produce a mild, unpleasant electrochemical sensation. Not dangerous, just enough that most soft-bodied crawlers avoid crossing it if they can help it. Copper tape and copper mesh barriers have been a recommended organic gardening technique for decades for exactly this reason. And while horticultural researchers are honest that results vary by garden, soil moisture, and slug species, it isn't a flawless universal fix. Enough repeat evidence exists that it remains one of the few non-toxic slug deterrents worth actually trying. Copper's usefulness against harder-shelled crawling insects like beetles and earwigs is much less well established. That part of the tradition is closer to folk practice than proven entomology. And it's fair to say so up front, rather than promise, more than the evidence supports. There's a second layer to this that almost nobody explains properly, and it has nothing to do with repelling anything. Copper is an essential plant micronutrient. It's a cofactor in the enzymes plants use for photosynthesis and for building lignin, the structural compound that stiffens cell walls. A buried copper strip releases only microscopic, trace amounts of ionic copper into damp soil over time, nowhere near enough to meaningfully fertilize a bed on its own, but it's a genuine, if modest, side benefit rather than an invented one. Zinc gets talked about alongside copper in a lot of gardening lore too, sometimes framed as forming a bioelectric circuit, with copper through the soil that supposedly repels flying insects. I want to be straight with you. That specific claim doesn't hold up. Zinc is a real and important micronutrient for plants. It's involved in enzyme function and root growth hormone production. But there's no credible research showing that a copper and zinc combination in garden soil generates any electrical field strong enough to affect insect behavior. If you hear that claim elsewhere, treat it as garden mythology rather than chemistry. So why did a genuinely useful, low-cost technique end up forgotten by most home gardeners, while pesticide aisles took over every hardware store in the country? Not because anyone buried the evidence. It's a much more ordinary story. After the Second World War, DDT and the organophosphate pesticides that followed it were cheap, fast, dramatically effective in the short term, and backed by a chemical industry with money to fund research, advertising, and extension service outreach. Universities and county agents followed the funding, as institutions generally do, and low-cost physical barrier methods that nobody was selling simply stopped getting mentioned in new gardening manuals and pamphlets. It wasn't a conspiracy so much as a market incentive. It's much easier to build a business selling a product you have to buy again every spring than to promote a strip of metal you buy once and bury for good. If you want to try this yourself, it's a weekend project, not a garden overhaul. Buy a roll of copper flashing from any hardware store, the kind roofers use, usually around $15 to $20 for a 10-foot roll. Cut it into strips roughly 2 inches wide and 8 inches long. Push those strips vertically into moist soil around the perimeter of a bed, spaced about a foot apart, burying each one about an inch deep, so only a ½ inch shows above the surface. Estume, the copper needs continuous contact with damp soil to work, so a strip sitting dry on top of mulch won't do much. You can ring an entire raised bed in under 10 minutes without disturbing a single root. If you want a fun bit of trivia to go with it, Pennies minted before 1982 are about 95% copper, while anything after that date is mostly zinc with a thin copper coating. So if you're tempted to toss old pennies in as a novelty, know which ones are actually copper. A few honest limitations before you get too excited. Copper barriers work best against slugs and snails specifically. Treat any claim about it repelling flying insects like cabbage moths or aphids with real skepticism, since the mechanism for that simply isn't established. The barrier can lose effectiveness if soil buildup, fallen leaves, or mulch creates a bridge over the top of it, so it needs the occasional check. And copper tarnishes over time into a greenish patina, which some gardeners find actually improves its performance, since the oxide layer reacts a bit more with slug mucus than bare metal. But that's an observation, not a guarantee. None of this is about some hidden truth that a company doesn't want you to have. It's simply a cheap, low-effort, low-toxicity method that fell out of print because nobody had a business model built around it, sitting quietly in the plumbing aisle the whole time. If it saves you even one round of spraying this season, it paid for itself. And if you want, drop a comment with the one pest that's given you the most trouble this year. That's shaping what Hidden Fix Lab covers next.